You're listening to the Mid-Career GPS podcast, episode 90.
But I then became part of an organization where the leadership saw my talents and did start mentoring, providing me guidance. So for which I moved up and up and up to higher levels of responsibility over 3 years. So being let go was a tragedy, but re-entering the workforce and then having good leadership to say, here's how you can communicate, here's how you should interact, here's how to tee up this team. Very, very valuable. So those transitions are really important.
Something has happened in your career that you will never forget. It's that defining moment that has shaped you, and in some way, it inspires you to do the work you are doing. Many of you have been fired from a job. I have, and it was devastating at the time. Today, you're going to meet Deb Coviello. She's known as the Drop-In CEO. She's a podcast host and the author of The CEO's Compass. Deb's career spans the engineering and manufacturing industries, and she has leadership experience as the head of quality and operational excellence. In today's episode, you're going to learn the real reason why you are feeling off track in your career and why it has nothing to do with your expertise. You'll also learn how leaders succeed when they're focused on building their teams first before their results, and why you need a compass to guide you toward your leadership excellence. This is the Mid-Career GPS podcast, and I'm your host, John Nerrell. I'm here with you each week to help you show up to find the job you love or love the job you have using my proven 4-step formula. It's time to start building your mid-career GPS, so let's get started. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the podcast. Now, before we get to today's conversation, I want to invite you to join my private Facebook group. It's called Your Mid-Career GPS. And here you're going to join a fantastic community of like-minded people who are all trying to figure out whatever is next for their careers. Whether you have a question about your job search or what you need to do to land your next advancement opportunity, this group is for you. I don't want you to feel alone in your job search, and it's one of the reasons why I created this group. So when you're over on Facebook, search for Your Mid-Career GPS under the Groups tab, answer the membership questions, and come on into the group. I can't wait to see you there. Now, I'm excited to introduce you to my guest today and tell her story. Deb Coviello and I were introduced by a previous guest and an incredible networking connection, David Schreiner-Kahn. I will link up to his episode as well. You know, when you get that feeling that someone you're talking to is wonderful and your gut tells you that this is a person you want to get to know more? That is the way I felt about Deb when I first met her. I knew I had to have her on the podcast, and she kindly returned the favor and had me on her podcast, The Drop-In CEO, which I will link up to in the show notes and want you to check out her show as well. But for right now, I want you to get to know Deb. So here she is.
I am the Drop-In CEO. I drop into organizations and partner with senior business leaders. We assess the situation. We solve a critical business problem. But my passion work is elevating the capability of the people in that organization for a lasting impact, because humans run businesses and we can solve problems, but unless you give them the confidence, capability, or capacity, they're not going to be able to sustain it. So that's a little bit briefly about the work that I do.
You will hear throughout this episode how much Deb knows that doing the right thing for people at any organization or business is vital to its success. And I want you to pay close attention to how Deb focuses on helping leaders lead people. But how did Deb become so passionate about her work? It all started when she was a kid who just wanted to do the right thing.
You know, the interesting response to that question is I just wanted to please do good work, get good grades, eventually get a job, and get paid for what I'm worth. And It was more of just continue to do what I wanted to do. But as a youngster, I was amazingly talented in the arts, communicating, talking, could you tell, writing, reading, singing, etc. They thought I was going to be a journalist or in television. And then something changed. And then I became a STEM professional, math, science, loved that stuff, went into biology and eventually started that way in my college career. So I don't know why I changed. It just happened. But all I knew is that I wanted to create. And I think that was the essence of creating something based on my training and education. I wish there was a silver bullet, but it was just trying to do the right thing at that time.
It's easy to think that being creative is reserved for the arts. Deb knows that being creative, regardless of industry or job title, is essential to being a leader people will want to follow.
So I did find a love for manufacturing after finishing biomedical engineering. And this is where the creativity comes in. I loved taking nothing and turning it into something, which is exactly what manufacturing is, taking materials, putting it through a process, and creating something that somebody wants to buy. That was what I did. And I went into so many industries, from aerospace to electronics, telecommunications, and ultimately falling into the chemical, flavors, and fragrance industry, and really honing my interests in the area of quality, make it good so people will want to buy it, and make it better, faster, cheaper, operational excellence, process improvement, problem solving, all of those skills I developed over the years, again, so that people wanted to continue to be loyal to the brands. So I love that. And there was so much creativity necessary in order to be able to lead and do that work.
Yes, we all lead in some capacity, but leaders learn to lead because they are good followers. Younger professionals who are tagged as high performers or high potentials do this very well at the start of their career. For many of you, this is how you accelerated your career.
Oh, wow. Really amazing question. I mean, moving from being a follower to a leader. I mean, it goes from doing good work to finally finding a place of, well, could we do it this way? Or I was extremely focused. Can we get it done faster? I was very organized, very structured, and I was a driver. And that got me to a level of success for a while. Obviously, my bosses wanted to pull me along because I got things done. But there was something along the way that no longer served me. Being just a doer and a subject matter expert stops when you don't have the essential skills to know how to communicate, to influence, to develop others. And I actually failed along the way. I've ultimately fired from a job earlier career around 35 because I never had the opportunity to develop those essential skills or have leadership to model or mentor.
I have seen this happen too many times to mention. You see someone at your company or organization, and they are quickly promoted because they do great work. And when they're elevated into that managerial or leadership role, their leaders assume they have it all together. And that person never gets the support that they need to succeed. Now, when that happens, that person is either going to leave because they feel as if they have failed, they will go out on their own accord, or they're going to go out because they were fired. This happened to Deb. Listen to how that event dramatically changed her career path.
Oh my, it was a low point, one of several. But I remember being exited from that opportunity. And while it was a good pause in my career, I thought to myself, what did I do wrong? I just didn't even know what did I do wrong. I simply did what I did and what worked in the past, and nobody there to guide me. So it took some time, but I made kind of a career shift. I was the director of quality of a startup optical networking company. And I said, I just want to go back to work as an individual contributor and practice my subject matter expertise, for which then I went into the fragrance and flavors industry. Highly successful. But I then became part of an organization where the leadership saw my talents and did start mentoring, providing me guidance. So for which I moved up and up and up to higher levels of responsibility over 3 years. So being let go was a tragedy, but re-entering the workforce and then having good leadership to say, here's how you can communicate, here's how you should interact, here's how to tee up this team. Very, very valuable. So those transitions are really important.
Being fired is a traumatic event. There's plenty of research for how one deals with being fired and correlates that to the 4 stages of grief. For Deb, she navigated her termination by answering a straightforward question. And she asks her leaders and clients this question all of the time.
Yeah, that is one of the things that, I have very short pity parties. I will have my poor me's. I will call my husband or a significant other and say, oh my. And then immediately I talk about what is in my control. What can I do now? Back in the day, I started calling up recruiters and saying, how quickly can I get my resume out there? What could I do now? Because I had to get back. I had to earn money. We had children and commitments. We needed to have 2 salaries. So I never let it hold me back. But during the process, each time I went into a new environment, new circumstances, and I started developing new skills. And in that last episode of going into that new career in the flavors and fragrance, I started learning new skills, having opportunities for travel, being exposed to culture. I was learning a lot. And then in the process, as I moved up to being a head of operational excellence and quality and having a lot of people in my care, oh my, I started failing again because I wasn't getting the results I had previously realized when I was just a subject matter expert.
As Deb's career progresses, she moves into a position where she is the head of quality. I asked her to define what quality looks like to her.
Oh boy, there's so many ways, but quality in the end is meeting consumer and customer expectations for brand loyalty. It's a person knowing what they're doing and why they're doing it, peace of mind knowing that they will continue to deliver quality to consumers or customers. It's being able to meet a specification back to my military days, but ultimately it's building an experience for a customer so they return to buying your product over and over again.
Deb's understanding of quality, it lives in her core. It's an integral part of work that she does as the drop-in CEO. But defining exactly what she does has been a professional and personal journey for her.
This is a beautiful topic for which I have struggled with because obviously, as a seasoned professional, now in my 50s, I have technical capability. I drop in as an interim leader. I can help them with process improvement to get something, save them money, top line growth. I can help with the quality issue if they're having a lot of customer complaints. I can help reduce those with the team. And I also develop the people on the team to learn new skills and have confidence. That's the technical side. That's my consulting business. But my passion, the passion work is now I'm building a leadership academy based on the work of my book and my blog and my podcast as well, because I find the better purpose of what I'm doing is I can fix any business problem within my capability and I'm resourceful, but building people's confidence and capability to get them unstuck, so similar to your brand. I love that because when you see the light bulb go on in an individual, it's absolutely amazing. So I am expanding the coaching and the leadership academy.
Mid-career is an excellent time for many of you to lean into who you are as a leader. Leadership is a personal journey. I asked Deb to share what advice she has for mid-career leaders.
One is have the self-awareness about who you are as a leader and why you want to lead. Because if it's just for the money, just for the prestige, and it potentially can conflict with your core values, you may not have that set up. So I would definitely check in with yourself about why are you doing what you're doing and are you really meant to be a leader? That's one. But the second thing is how you lead. Is it for you to be the subject matter expert or are you trying to develop the future leaders? That's another thing you should ask. And do you have the skills and capabilities? There are so many other skills. Do you know how to solicit feedback so that you can grow? Do you know how to give feedback to others to grow them as well and make feedback not such a scary experience? So many essential skills, but it does start with your own reflection. Why do you lead? And then have the awareness and find the gaps in your leadership and grow them.
As human beings, we judge. Look, just scrolling on social media is a perfect opportunity to judge what and whoever is in your feed. And that judgment often leads us to comparing ourselves against other people. Deb helps her leaders address their imposter syndrome with a great tool that you can use right now. And it's one of the many powers of coaching.
I can cry because of this question, because I also assumed narratives of, oh, I can't be a CEO. I can't be a plant manager. When my husband would say, you can do that, I said, I can't. And one of the things I do advise people is get rid of the N apostrophe T, the int in your vocabulary, and start reframing things in which I can, I will, I believe I can do. Because by using those simple words, not only are you internalizing the narrative of what you can't do, you show up in the world and people perceive that as well. So if you want to go for like a new role, maybe it's sales and you've been a technical leader, rather than say, oh, I can't do that, I've never done that before, you could say, well, I know I am a fast learner. I know how to get resources. So I believe I can do that and get up to speed quickly. People will start saying, okay, I'm going to look for that opportunity, or let's get you signed up for that. Get rid of the negative terminology in your vocabulary. That's the first step.
Perhaps you're a leader who used to lead your team in person, but has had to shift to leading your team remotely because of events during the pandemic. Many leaders have struggled with how they show up and lead. And I asked Deb for some thoughts to help you lead your team, especially when they're remote.
Thinking that everything has changed or it's out of your control. And I suggest, and this is a narrative I talk about, a lot is in your control. Let's just say you used to have meetings face to face. You'd get coffee, you'd get donuts. You believe you cannot have the same relationships and banter and family with your teams. And I would just propose that's not so. You can find tools and techniques when you show up here to have casual conversation. Ask everybody to bring your favorite coffee. Try to recreate the values and the relationships you have. If you used to do one-on-ones with people, have coffee, have lunch, you can still use it with the power of technology. But what we have to do is be very intentional and really look each other in the eye and truly listen and continue what we felt when we had a face-to-face. We have to work harder as leaders to develop that relationship as tightly as we can, even if through technology.
We all have derailers, and those derailers distract us from making the impact we want. Here, Deb begins talking about the CEO's compass and helping leaders identify what she calls their true north.
One of my favorite ones is what we're really in search of. Leaders believe that, oh, if I get that result, that financial result, the quality service or number of clients or what have you, I am successful. And I propose, even if there's a pandemic or not, you're never going to be happy if all you are seeking short-term results, lagging indicators. A leader has to think about what brings them peace of mind. Do my people that I'm leading have all the skills that they need to achieve those results? When I'm not there, are they speaking the purpose and the why of the organization? But if you have to constantly push and drive to just get a result, that's all you're going to get and fluctuate, and you're going to hurt your people in the process. But if you lead differently with purpose, what are we all here? What is the greater outcome? We're not going to make the score, the result every single month. But if we stay tried and true, and all of a sudden people start aligning around a purpose, you all of a sudden at some point are going to step back and watch that team perform, knowing they're going to continue the work that you started to drive because they have the confidence, the capability, and the capacity. And that on the CEO's compass is peace of mind, true north. And that's what leaders should be in search of: peace of mind, not results.
What else do you need to build around your true north? It starts with these two components:
purpose and performance around true north, followed by past and pride, and then finally, people, process, and platforms. Purpose and performance are so close to true north, you need to have a clear understanding of the why and the purpose in order to lead the team. But what is different in my approach is when we look at performance, don't measure the corporate performance results. You look at the performance of your people and look at, in order to achieve this purpose, do they individually, so it's very human centric, do they individually have the capability to be successful? Your goal as a leader is to close the gap in their skills, whether it's technical or essential. And when they do, that's the leading indicator of whether you're going to meet the performance results. So having a purpose and working with your people to achieve success to perform is what we should be focused on, leading indicators, not lagging.
Deb continues to talk about this next part of the CEO's compass, but admittedly, I listened to this section a few times. Deb provides such rich context around why leadership needs to examine the company's past that is often overlooked. It's one of the ways she drops in and changes the conversation.
Past and pride was an aha moment when I was leading an initiative to integrate another business unit. So many people wanted to get them on the enterprise system and spent no time with the humans. I said, I need to get to know them. And when I talk about past, it is understanding their culture and their diversity, respect it, ask about it, and celebrate it. And pride is the intersection of their humanity and their intellectual property. What have they done well in the past that they were celebrated for? And you need to pull that forward, because as a leader, you may not need that skill or that gift or that patent that they have, but knowing it, respecting it, you may need to bring that forward. At a time of crisis, when a leader needs to scramble and pull together people, because you trusted them and you respected them to get to know what made them different and special, they will have your back. They will take care of the business problem. Sometimes leaders don't remember that. And there's a lot of waste, a lot of energy, and a lot of casualties because people feel like they're part of the team.
Here, we come full circle to Deb's experiences. When you're in a leadership role and know that in your career path you've been forgotten or overlooked, you make it your life's work to ensure that it never happens to anyone again.
And finally, the last three compass points are people, process, and platforms. And in the STEM area, that's throwing more training at people, giving them more procedures, giving them really great tools. But what's different about my approach, again, people-centric. People, mentoring them. Make sure you have a program to mentor the skills they need for developing and coaching. The process, looking at the interaction between two different humans. Sometimes we have to coach on how to align those people to get the desired results. And platform. Once those leaders start developing those personal skills and the interrelationship skills, how do you hold them accountable? How do you help them making good decisions in their career? Sometimes we don't give them those tools, and at a time of stress, they backtrack. These platforms and tools anchor them in the new skills that they've developed, and very necessary.
Heart-centered leaders who work in an organization where people are not put first suffer from a values conflict. They want better. They see better, but they are frustrated that leadership doesn't share the same value. Can you relate? And if so, what do you do? I asked Deb for her advice to help you navigate those situations.
My heart hurts for that leader, because a lot of organizations will have their values and talk about, we care about people. But I will tell you, at the end of the day, I once did that in a presentation for which, here's how I'm leading. Here's what I need to do differently to elevate my team. And only last in my presentation, I said, and here's what I'm going to do next year. They said, that was very nice, Deb, but you need to spend more time on the tactical work. And what are you going to get done? And I felt deflated. But then others said, we need more leaders like you that think differently. And so my advice for the person that just feels stuck, one, you have the power to voice your concern. Use your voice to express the feedback. I'd like to spend more time in developing essential skills, whether it's my own or the team. Make the proposal, be the higher leader, because maybe the organization just has had a culture that never did it, and maybe you can make a difference. But don't spend too much time there, because after a while, you will see whether you're making a difference. But just know, if you want to be in a culture that celebrates people first, you may have to move to a different situation in order to leverage your passion and skills. Because if one or two people say they really enjoy spending time with you and how they've elevated their skills, that's a signal. You should listen to that, because there may be many more people that need you to help elevate their ability to achieve the results and what they want.
Like Deb, I've done a lot of self-work around circumstances and events that have happened in my career. Admittedly, it's hard to let certain things go, especially when you've been unfairly treated. Deb shares one powerful question here that will undoubtedly help you shift your mindset and the lens you place on those situations. Just remember this one thing.
Everything is in your control. Mm-hmm. Same thing about the earlier questions about narrative. At question why you have the narrative, who said you could or couldn't, when was it said, and if that person or situation is no longer relevant, why do you hold on to it? And it's just the same. You have the power to make a decision to move on. And yes, there are circumstances, financial, situational, where maybe you cannot make a change in your situation. But there are things you can do in personal development to prepare you for when that opportunity opens up.
Many of you have experienced burnout, and Deb is right there with you. But how do you communicate to your boss or executive that you're at your maximum capacity? Remember, it's not about how much you can handle. It's just that you have too much.
And I experienced it as well. When you get better and the company succeeds, you are given more work because you can get it done. And then they lean on you, and they never really do a good job at resource allocation and measuring success. They just feel because you've been capable, they'll give you more. And sometimes we don't know how to articulate, I can't do more. Otherwise, things start falling off. We also sometimes don't know how to prioritize or say no. Essential skills we need to develop. But I will say, yes, more burnout. When I serve my clients, they call me in for a situation, deer in a headlight, until I can talk them through and paint a path to move them forward. And then they are relieved. We are throwing so much at them. We as leaders need to ask the question, will they be successful?
The Great Resignation has changed our thoughts around how we work and the kind of work we are doing. Executive leadership must address these changes. Deb sees change coming, but with this caveat, there is still a lot more work to do, and that work needs to happen now.
There's an awakening happening because people have left organizations. The people that have hung on, they are really going to get burnt out. And I'm hoping leaders recognize that people want better balance. What I am seeing is more organizations are embracing operational excellence and process improvements because they do recognize the burnout. A current assignment I'm on, they have a full initiative to, one, not only improve the customer experience, but oh my, the internal customers are experiencing so much burnout, and the leaders are starting to take note and measure it and start putting resources around it. So I see a trend. They are starting to listen, but the truly successful ones better accelerate, or there will be nobody left in the organization to be able to do the work, let alone improve it and make it less stressful.
For someone who works in a similar space, I asked Deb two questions that I invite you to ask anyone in your circle to get to know them better. These two questions are my favorite informational interview questions. No matter the level, no matter the person, ask these two questions. As a business owner who has all of the experience you have, what's the best part of your job?
Oh, this is such a cool question. The best part is looking at somebody in the eyes and seeing the light bulb go on. Realizing if it's personal, they've been holding themselves back, and immediately say, I don't have to be stuck anymore. I know what I can do, A, B, C. Those are beautiful moments when it comes to my coaching work. On the technical side, when I go into an organization, you look at the stressed people and you help them see a better way of operating and getting rid of the waste in what they're doing. Seeing people's shoulders relax and having the and getting energized around getting their lives back on track or easier. That is the work, the passion work I love to do, making their lives easier so they can spend more time doing the things they love with their family, their friends, and their community.
What's the biggest challenge you face in your work?
Reaching the people that I can serve. Because I have been doing everything through being authentic in me, not changing myself, to putting my thought leadership out there, through networking with people like you, through the power of podcasting, getting my message out there, and also hoping that what I'm saying resonates with the people that need my consulting or my coaching. That's the biggest challenge, and staying true and steady and continuing and manifesting and having those aspirations. It is hard playing the long game. But I still believe in it because the universe and people coming into my world are saying, Deb, keep going. That's the hardest part for me.
I asked Deb to share some thoughts with you to help you build your mid-career GPS.
I wish I had the awareness to seek out a mentor or a coach when the environment didn't present it. And now, being on the outside, creating an environment or an ecosystem, I have several mentors and coaches. And they've been invaluable for me to realize my potential and give me the incentive to move forward and doing the work I love to do now versus when I was in corporate. Think about it. You can't do it all yourself. You can, but you might need a little help.
Here's how you can connect and follow Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO, and come back as I share a few closing thoughts with you.
So I appreciate the opportunity to connect with your audience. The best way to connect for all of the resources is dropinceo.com. That's my website, dropinceo.com. For there, you can get access to how to order my book, The CEO's Compass, Your Guide to Get Back on Track. It is meant for the CEO, but also the mid-career professional. Start following the tips that I have in the book. It will set you up for success later. My podcast, my blog posts, and coming out soon, my Leadership Academy, all found on my website. And I can't wait to start a conversation with you.
Great. I will make sure all of that is in the show notes. Deb Coviello, thank you so much for spending some time with us today on the Mid-Career GPS.
Thank you so much, John. I appreciate it.
Same. Now that you've met Deb Coviello, the Drop-In CEO, I want you to consider your takeaways from today's conversation. For me, I have two. One, always remember what is in your control. Circumstances are events that happen, and our thoughts control our feelings about those situations. Perspective changes as our feelings evolved. And secondly, we must put people first. Now more than ever, leaders must have their pulse on exactly what is happening with their employees, and they must build leadership capacity and support conversations to make work better. And if you don't think you're in the right place and are questioning your fit, you and I should have a conversation. I want to offer you that there are better ways for you to navigate your career path as you build that next part of your mid-career GPS toward whatever is next. And one way to do that is to come into my private Facebook group. Remember, it's called Your Mid-Career GPS. You are going to get some great information and support just by being a part of the group to help you with your job search and your leadership efforts. So find Your Mid-Career GPS on Facebook and come on into the group. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Deb Coviello and connect with her as well. And until next time, my friends, remember this. We build our mid-career GPS 1 mile or 1 step at a time, and how we show up matters. I appreciate you and make it a great rest of your day.